Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about Everybody's Protest novel by James Baldwin. Now, before I go into the summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment so the channel can continue to grow. So, Everybody's Protest novel here, very interesting work here. James Baldwin is talking about works like Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe, where the characters are portrayed to be good versus evil. Black characters, there are good ones, ethically right, morally right, noble characters versus evil characters. And in a lot of these protest novels, what you get is like they're white individuals, they're evil, they're not doing things morally acceptable, moral things, and so a lot of times these works portray black people as good, religious, has some type of connection to the celestial or to God. They do right. It's like that the black character that you're gonna feel sympathy for, you're gonna feel bad for. You're gonna feel like, because Uncle Tom within Uncle Tom's Cabin, he was just a good guy. I know there's different definitions of what an Uncle Tom is in the world today. There's a modern um, definition of Uncle Tom, but the Uncle Tom that appears within Uncle Tom's Cabin, he's like, religious. He's morally right. He's a good guy. He does things well. He's fair. He's just. He's like the guy that you kind of want to cry for, the guy that you want to cheer on. He's just a good Uncle Tom. Um, but in the modern era, Uncle Tom is not. If somebody calls you an Uncle Tom, they're not telling you that you did something great. It's more like you're not true to yourself. So there's a different definition of Uncle Tom that exists within society today. An Uncle Tom is a person that just you're kind of like a lapdog. You're not true to yourself. You're not true to your culture. You've accepted the role that society has handed you. So if somebody calls you an Uncle Tom today, it's not a good thing. But the Uncle Tom in the work is like he's morally right. He's ethical. He's just. He's strong, brave, tough. So James Baldwin is saying here, depicting black people as these individuals that are good, that you should cry for, that are their oppression is 100% their oppression, and white people are evil, and it doesn't, these works don't show the complexity of human existence, the things that, because again, there are white people even during the time of slavery, they didn't want to kill people, they didn't want to hurt people. Yes, they had slaves, but in the culture that they lived in, having slaves was okay. And we can't just say like all slaves masters were like, chopping limbs and killing people. Some slave masters, they had slaves, they treated them well. They fed them, they clothed them, they gave them a place to live. And yes, the slaves worked for them for free, but they weren't just beating slaves. Yes, they always had the power to do that, but not all slaves master were just chopping heads every day. Um, just just in a financial standpoint. Again, let's just talk about the ugly part of slavery. Not all slavery was just chopping heads and abuse and rape and things like that. That did exist. I mean, that's the ugly part of slavery that people don't want to talk about. There were brothels, there were rapes, there were forced baby making. Because again, there's several instances where white slave owners would take the strongest male slave and force them to have kids with female slaves or as many as possible because you wanted kids that were strong and could do work and could produce more for you. So, in some ways, you could say the black people in the colonies, even certain black people in America today, African Americans, we can say that their ancestors, they weren't just slaves, they were bred, all right, because their masters bred them because, you know, it's documented that slaves masters wanted strong slaves. There's definitely, you can do the research yourself. There's definitely research that proves to say that, there are some slaves that the well-behaved ones, the strong ones, the obedient ones, they're the ones that, slave masters encouraged to have more kids than others because it was good for business, because it was, slavery was economic. So the more productive slaves you had, the more obedient slaves you have, the more slaves that wouldn't run away. You want more of those because it was good for your wallet. Um, and these are the things that James Baldwin is saying that we need to talk about here, is that literature that reveals the dark stuff, the full picture of the human condition within slavery, within oppression, within racism, that talks about all these things are very important, because we can't just make caricatures and symbols of this is a good slave, this is a bad slave, this is a good white person, this is a bad white person. This is what we need to believe, this is what we need to cry for. You leave things on the table undiscussed, that's really not good for society. James Baldwin is saying here within this work that you need to have people to have a full picture of what slavery was, of what oppression is, of what racism is, so that people can change and not just, get this propaganda, feel bad for, the majority of the time that they're reading this work, and then move on with their lives. They need to be confronted with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so that society can get better and that we can confront the dark things that we don't want to talk about, so that we do talk about them and move on with our lives. And this is also, not creating a fairy tale, because a lot of works, especially when it comes to slavery and black people, it's like, feel bad for the black people, feel bad for the slaves. We need change. We need abolition, um, or the abolishment of slavery, the abolitionist movement. We need that and that, and the third. That's all great, but let's not just create propaganda. Let's not just create a political a message, because literature can't just be a political message or a moral message or a call to action all the time. Sometimes for it to revoke change, to invite change, you have to present the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, because then people confront things that they don't want to confront. People face emotions that they don't want to confront, and that makes people think, and that makes people act, and that makes people change. So James Baldwin is right here. In terms of deeper meaning analysis, this is a strong and powerful work, because it allows you to talk about things that people don't want to talk about. When people talk about slavery, especially in documentaries, people talk about the safe stuff, beatings, labor, unwanted labor, killings, huntings, abolition. But people don't want to talk about, slaves being bred. People don't want to talk about slaves being raped. People don't want to talk about slaves being taken advantage of. People don't talk about the dark underbelly of things that were going on, because it's just too dark and uncomfortable when we talk about them and when we bring them to light. James Baldwin is saying here, let's not just focus on the caricatures and the symbols, but let's paint the full picture, because that's when we face things head on and we talk about the truth in literature, and not turn literature into propaganda, because literature is supposed to be the full picture, and putting things out there that people beat around the bush on. So if you're turning literature into just a message, it's not literature. It's just your own form of propaganda. So that's all I have to say about this work. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.